Thank you, Rob. So each week we've been focusing on the lights of the windows of our souls and how we're bringing those lights into this season. This season for some is Advent, for some this is a season of new beginnings. We've looked at the light of hope, peace, and today we're looking at the light of love. My family has this tradition where we actually celebrate Thanksgiving, but never on Thanksgiving because there are so many people vying for that date with so many kids. So we have a tradition called Fakesgiving. It's on whenever Thanksgiving isn't. And what's so interesting about our Fakesgiving is we're developing our own traditions that are important to us, as you do with every important holiday. And of course, it's around food. You know, the au gratin potatoes or the perfect stuffing or my mother's cookies, whatever it may be, there is that tradition that it would not be Fakesgiving without those elements. Well, you know, our faith traditions aren't all that different either. In faith traditions, we have food elements that help us in exploring who we are as God's people. For example, the Jewish tradition has challah bread, which is what we have here. And this bread is served at Shabbat, which is Friday evening. And it's a bread that reminds those in this tradition of a time when they were wandering in the wilderness and they did not have enough to eat, and God provided manna from heaven. In fact, more than enough manna from heaven. So challah is made with at least 2 different loaves of bread being intertwined together as a reminder of God not only giving, but giving in abundance to God's people. In the Muslim tradition, at the end of Ramadan, which is in the middle of the summer most of the time, there is a special way of ending the fast. They remember that Muhammad ate 3 dates to end the fast, 3 dates. So now, as part of that tradition, ending the fast, people will share in the eating of dates. In the Christian tradition, we have Holy Communion, which reminds us of the presence of Christ with us, his death. He shared in Last Supper feast with those that he loved and said, you know, whenever you eat and drink, remember me, remember my love for you, and remember the mystic energy that I have left with you to get you through this journey. Now, today we're going to look at a communion story, but not the one you may traditionally think of. This is from Luke's gospel, and it's these guys who have just witnessed all that's gone on in Jerusalem. Jesus has been crucified, and all kinds of things are going on, and this is the days after the resurrection, and they're talking among themselves about what happened, and this guy comes along that they don't recognize. And, well, hear the story. As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on, but they urged him, strongly saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, he blessed it, and he broke it, and he gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened. They recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" That same hour they got up and they returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road, and how he had been made known in the breaking of the bread. So the mystery of the presence of God being made known in a meal in the breaking of the bread. Today we are indeed talking about the love that can be found at a family meal, the love that can be found at a family meal. And we all know the power and the gift of family. Now, first, let me define my understanding of family. Family can be those people that you grew up with, your extended family, your parents, all of those people that your DNA matches in some way. You're all part of the same DNA line. That's really what I want to say. Then I'm also saying that sometimes that family doesn't work out, so you create family, or what is known as your chosen family. This is my chosen family, whom I gather with. Other times we find ourselves in situations where we're having meals with people that may not be connected to us in any way, but we recognize that in that moment they're family. Last night, Andrew and I had dinner with Craig Novy. Craig Novy is a longtime gardener who would walk to the garden every Sunday morning, and not long ago he fell on his way to church and had a severe, severe break. In fact, so severe that at this time he won't be able to put any weight on it till well into the new year. So he's in assisted living. And so we went, he's a young man of 60-something, but we went to go see him yesterday, so that's kind of a different environment for him. And so we went and had dinner with he and his fiancée, and as we were having dinner, I looked around the table and I looked around at the different tables, and here are people who have lived their lives with their families or whatever, but they're creating new family together with other roommates, with other people who are around. That's family for them. We have other folks here that often are in meals with people who are in same living situations with them right now. That's family right now. So that's what I define as family. Anybody you sit down to have a meal with that you can love. Desmond Tutu once said this about family. He said, "You don't choose your family. They are God's gift to you as you are to them." Maya Angelou said this. She said, "I sustain myself with the love of my family." These are two beautiful sentiments which I really, really like. But I have to be honest, when it comes to my Fakesgiving family and my extended family, this next quote fits my family a little bit better. It says, "I wish I could relate to the people I'm related to." That's Jeff Foxworthy. For some of us, that's true, isn't it? I mean, my family, for example, and I'm not going to name names, but you know who you are. My family is this fascinating array of people. First of all, we're Irish, and my brother married a beautiful Hispanic girl, and they had 7 beautiful children, and they have gone on to marry African Americans and people of different faiths and different cultures, and it's like a little United Nations every time we get together. It's so beautiful, the variety of color and the variety of accents, and you know that great Irish Hispanic energy that happens, you know, it all comes together. I pray for my nieces and nephews every day who have both energies. It's really fascinating to me. But you know, we have created some rules of engagement for our family gatherings, but they don't always work out. Like, for example, if you carry a gun, don't bring it into the house. But then we do have to make the exception that you can wear on your lapel the permit that you get that says, in fact, you can carry a gun. Wear it proudly right there. Then there's no politics this year, kids. We're not talking politics. But my one nephew who insists on talking about the triumphal entry of the triumphant entry of the triumphant guy, which we try to ignore. And then there's the other one that just wants 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, because you guys need to feel the burn, right? There are the family members that religious beliefs will not let them drink at all. Then there's the aunt who drinks too much, and there's the uncle, or the nephew who has the DWI, and then there's the variety of different things that go on in one family gathering. And then there are the kids. The kids' table is huge now. There are kids everywhere, all over, all sizes, all shapes. And then there's the adult family table, where it's so wonderful as my parents get a little bit older, how we listen a little more closely to what it is that they have to say to us, and how I've watched my nieces and nephews make their way to the adult table. It's really very, very fascinating. There's the nephew who this year brought the girl that he thinks he wants to marry to the family gathering, and quite frankly, I've never seen a young man sweat quite that much. Then there's the other people who have no place to be, so they come, and I believe just for the entertainment value. They offer to buy the ticket and everything. So, but you know, there's one thing about family that I have learned over the years. This is family. And the only thing tougher than life is the group that helps us get through it, you know? And then another one of my favorite quotes is, family, it's where life begins and love never ends. Now, I do poke fun at my family a little bit, and I hope they still love me after this message. And I do poke fun a little bit, but I think that over the years, I have gained a little better understanding of what it means to be family and how it is that I can go into these conversations and these gatherings a little different than maybe I would have in the past. So today, I just want to share with you my 6 loving steps for how to make it through the next family meal. The first recommendation I have for all families everywhere is to put the technology away. Have a no technology zone at your table. Now, this is difficult for our family because my father has a camera attached to him at all times, and he has been that way since I've known him for over 50 years, and I think when he dies, he's going to be like this. But so just create a no technology zone, because I would like to see more than my nieces and nephews' heads. I want to see their faces, and in fact, that's an important part of connecting. Daniel Goldman is an author. He wrote Emotional Intelligence. He's now writing a book on compassion, and he says the greatest challenge for our culture today is the fact that we don't look at each other anymore. We are not as compassionate because we're not taking the time to be present and to look at one another. He shares a story about being on a subway in New York City, and everybody was moving along doing their thing, hundreds and hundreds of people coming out of the subway, when he looked down and there was a man who had fallen on the ground, who was just laying there, and people were just walking right by him. So Goldman stopped to care for him, and he says, when I stopped, immediately 12 other people stopped right away. 12 other people stopped, and together this group of people were able to discover that he was an immigrant and didn't know the language, hadn't had food for a week, and together this team of people became family to get him something to eat, to get him some orange juice, and to get him to a shelter so that he could be cared for. Because one person stopped and looked. I think we need to learn how to do that again, to be present with one another, to look at one another, and to have a face-to-face with one another, as hard as it may be. The third point, so drop the technology, look at one another, and the third point is replace judgment with curiosity. Try to find out about what this triumphal entry means. Try to find out why your family members have the political views they do. I know that's frightening, but don't stay there. Go deeper and find out what they really care about. Is it fear? Is it love? What is it that's drawing your family forth? What is it that makes wearing a carry permit on your lapel important? Curiosity, replacing judgment, makes a world of difference. Now keep in mind, this is sometimes challenging because when you start looking at people, you'll notice piercings and tattoos and things that you perhaps have never seen before. Release judgment. Be curious about why a piercing here is important or whatever it is. And I'm being serious because they'll tell you the story. You don't do those things without thinking about it first. So replace judgment with curiosity, and again, ask questions. Ask questions of the kids at the little table. Ask the kids at that table, what's the best thing that happened? What's the best thing that happened this morning? I think it was the donut because I was watching her eat the donut. What's the best thing that happened this week? They'll find something. Kids have a gift for finding the goodness of life. Somewhere along the line, we lose that, but they still get it. So ask those questions, and then, of course, learn the stories of your elders. As I look around, a few of us are reaching that category. And we're at the place where we can share the stories of Christmas past that the people at the little table don't know. We can share the stories of people who have moved on into life eternal and the important traditions to them. Look at each other, listens to each other's stories from the littlest person to the biggest person. The sixth point for me is perhaps the most important. Be mindful of the mystery in the meal. Every meal provides an opportunity for the Spirit to intercede in some way that you don't understand, and I guarantee you don't expect. I love this story that Jesus becomes known in the breaking of the bread. Something shifts. Something changes in a way that the Spirit intercedes, and that is the only thing really in control. That is the power of communion. Not that we know the right handshake, not that you say the right words, not that you do it the way I do it, but indeed that you are open to the mystery of the experience. Today at the garden, we're going to enter into the mystery of an experience. We're going to have communion here today. On your tables, you will find a thing of juice, you will find a little bit of bread, and a date. I'm going to talk about all those things in just a minute. But you'll also maybe have a little bit leftover bagel or a donut, a little bit leftover coffee. Each one of these items provides an opportunity for you to commune with the people who are at your table, or if you're alone, with the Spirit that is at your table. Just pausing and asking for this mysterious presence to be made known in the people among you and in the food that you're using to sustain you. Jesus' point is that you're always going to need food, for your physical body, but you're going to need me to feed you spiritually, because this world has some darkness in it, and we got to keep trying to overcome the darkness of the world. That's what it's all about. Most often that darkness starts within us. And that's what he's talking about. I put a date there as a reminder of the ending of the fast in Ramadan. And I put the date there because everybody should eat a date once, I guess. Or if you're Muslim, I hope in some way you feel that we're honoring your tradition, even though I know we're out of step with what time of year that is. But just eat a date, I guess. Take a bite of a date and try it. But be mindful that for some, this is a very sacred meal. We're going to share in traditional Holy Communion up front here. So what does that mean? That means for those of us who proclaim ourselves Christian, even if you don't, we're going to share in the feast that Jesus left us, that he said, if you eat this, you're never going to hunger nor thirst again, because I will always be with you. I will lead you through the challenges of life and the mystery of life. We're going to share in Holy Communion down here by intinction. Mary's going to help me out, and that means I'm going to invite you to come and take a piece of bread from the loaf. Why don't we come down this way? You don't have to do this, but if you so choose. Take a piece of bread from the loaf, dip it into the cup, partake, and then return to your seats for prayer and reflection. You can either have communion like that, you can have communion with your bagels, you can eat your dates, whatever it is that will break forth the mystery of this moment for you, we invite you to share in. All are welcome. All are welcome into the mystery that is God. All are welcome to this feast of new beginnings and of spiritual well-being. I'm going to invite Mary forth now. So we remember that on that night that Jesus was betrayed, he gathered with his disciples in a large upper room. And in that feast, he wanted to make sure they would remember him always. Remember that he was with them always. So they were having a meal. They were having the Shabbat. And he said, he took bread and he lifted it to heaven and he gave thanks to God, and then he broke it. And he gave it to them and he said, take and eat. This represents my body that's given for you so that you might live a rich, loving life. He also took the cup and he lifted it to heaven and he gave thanks to God, and he said, this is the cup of the covenant, new life, new beginnings, poured out for you and for many. Your sins are forgiven. The darkness is taken away in sharing in this feast. As I said before, you do not have to proclaim anything. That's between you and God if you wish to share in communion here today. You need only believe of that spiritual mystery and energy that is available to you and to me in the feast that has been given to us. As I said before, we're going to invite those who choose to come forth, take a piece of bread from the loaf, dip it into the cup, partake, and then return to your seats for prayer and reflection. Don't have to. Can stay right where you are if you'd like. Just ask for the mystery of God to intercede in powerful ways. All are welcome.